What's wrong with LA? Residents are moving out in numbers greater than ever before. Tonight, as I begin my Prime 9 News special, a look at why so many just gotta get out. Coming up later on Prime 9 News at 10.
The Golden State is losing some of its glitter, and a bad economy is just one of the reasons people say they gotta get out.
Tonight, we begin a three-part series on people on the move and why they're looking for the exit sign out of LA. Our Tracy Savage is standing by downtown live with part one. Tracy.
Well, Jerry and Tawny, I'm right on the edge of downtown Los Angeles, and at night it makes a pretty picture. But for many, Los Angeles has become a very ugly place to live. In fact, for the first time in more than 20 years, more Americans are moving out of this state than into this state. Tonight, in my special report, we'll take a tour of Los Angeles and find out why.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Magic Line Tours.
On a sightseeing tour of Los Angeles, you get to see the city's best.
The theater was built back in 1927.
You get to see a city that for years was so popular, tourists would come to Los Angeles and never want to leave. Many didn't. But something is happening here. The Golden State is tarnishing.
I hear about the traffic problems and the crime rate.
The stories on riots.
The cost of living here is ridiculous.
The smog and the pollution.
It has a bad reputation back home.
LA bashing is as common as earthquakes or drive-by shootings these days. And the sad part is, a lot of what's being said seems to be true.
Violence has erupted in some parts of Los Angeles.
No justice! The bloodiest weekend in LA since the riots. 29 people killed in the county.
I have a stalled blue vehicle eastbound.
Tonight, there's bad news on the job front. The highest unemployment rate in 9 years.
With pictures like these, it's no wonder many now feel the best view of Los Angeles is from a rearview mirror. Tim Campbell and Jackie Harrington both grew up in Southern California. They've spent their entire lives here, and for most of that time, they've loved LA. But their Montclair house is on the market. The minute it sells, they are packing up and taking their daughter Crystal to Colorado. The minute it sells, they are out of here.
I've seen it do nothing but go downhill. I have a 10-year-old. I won't let her off the street. And it's not just this area, it's anywhere. It really is. It's sad to see it go down. You know, I don't feel California's fit to bring up children. That might be sad, but it isn't.
If I don't get on the freeway by 4:45 in the morning to be at work by 6, I'll never get there by 6:30, 7:15. It's just ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous.
Choose to cope with the problems.
Kill yourself for what? To make the mortgage payment that I can't even make anymore because they're not paying any more money? So, don't want to.
Not worth it.
I don't want to fight it no more.
You take 1 and make it 11.
So Jackie and Tim will leave family and friends behind to try to find what they think will be a better life away from LA.
This house sold tomorrow. I guarantee you by this weekend I'd be gone.
The best quality of life in America today is possible in mid-sized cities.
Bill Seavey makes a living out of helping people just like Jackie and Tim escape LA.
And they seem to be middle-class people, baby boomer types, late 30s, early 40s, who have young children.
Bill publishes a quarterly newsletter with helpful hints for Southern Californians longing for greener pastures. For Bill, business is booming.
A lot of people are very nervous about personal safety. They just don't feel safe in their homes, and they don't feel safe in their streets. And when people lose a sense of personal security, I think their whole world starts to fall apart.
And in the case of LA, people are bailing out. For the first time in 20 years, more Americans are moving out of California than into California. The DMV tells us close to 74,000 Americans moved into Los Angeles this year, but more than 86,000 have moved out. Now, if the numbers don't mean anything, try getting a moving van without booking months in advance.
On the weekends, it's almost impossible to get a truck without a reservation. And there's people begging us, please, rent me a truck, find me a truck. We don't have them.
Keep in mind, it's not just individuals or families that are heading out, but entire corporations. As a result, this exodus is threatening the economic well-being of the city.
We could say it's the economic big one.
Jack Kaiser of the LA County Economic Development Corporation says companies cite the main reasons for leaving: the high costs of doing business, excessive bureaucratic red tape, ever-tightening regulations, and the 5th highest workers' comp costs in the country.
And it's sort of like paradise has become sort of the a new version of, what would you say, hell.
Life's too short, and there's a lot of beautiful country out there. And I hate to say it, but it's not in California anymore.
I want to appreciate for taking your time to explore this fabulous city.
If what you see on a tour is what LA is all about, chances are most people would want to stay. But the reality is, life here is much different. And nowadays, it seems few want to stick around. Now, over the next few nights, we'll be telling you where many Southern California residents are moving to, how to make the best choices for you and your family, and if you choose to stay here, how to cope with the problems of this city. Now, coming up tomorrow night, we'll take you to one of the popular places for people who are fed up and have got to get out, Grand Junction, Colorado. It has wide open spaces, clean air, and for some LA companies, it's a better place to do business. The city of Los Angeles has, well, it's changed in the last few years, and now it seems anyone who can afford to leave and wants to is doing just that. Reporting live in Los Angeles, I'm Tracy Savage. Back to you.
Sure ain't what it used to be.
Right. It isn't. Thanks, Tracy. I'm Tracy Savage, live in Burbank. LA residents are moving out of the state in numbers greater than ever before. Coming up in part 2 of my special report, I'll tell you where people who got to get out are going. Traffic, smog, crime, crowds. Getting sick of LA? Feel like you got to get out? You're not alone. In fact, for the first time in 20 years, more Americans are moving out of California than moving in.
Question tonight, where are they going? Tracy Savage joins us live in Burbank with part of her 9 News Extra. Tracy, where?
Well, Jerry and Tony, you know, it used to be people would move to the suburbs. People sick of LA would move here to get away from the fast pace of city life. But nowadays, more and more people are finding that's not good enough, and they're leaving the state. And tonight, we're going to take you to one of the popular places where Southern Californians are moving to, and you'll see it doesn't look a thing like Los Angeles. The beauty is breathtaking. It may be hard to remember seeing skies so blue or mountains so striking. In Grand Junction, Colorado, you can see for miles. Grand Junction is a small town of about 30,000 people on the west side of the state. It doesn't have the fast pace, the upscale restaurants, or the big city entertainment you find in Los Angeles. And the folks here say that's just fine. And more Southern California residents are saying that's exactly what they are looking for, too.
Neil has to install 3 storm doors tomorrow.
6 months ago, Scott and Carol McGinnis sold their house in Simi Valley and moved their 3 children here to Grand Junction, Colorado. They simply wanted a better quality of life.
You feel a little easier about walking around. You know, I'm not worried about carrying a club with me anymore.
It takes me 7 minutes to get to work. And I drive 3 weeks on a tank of gas. I used to go 5 days on a tank of gas.
Cities like Grand Junction are desirable to a lot of people, not so much for what they have, but for what they don't have. They don't have gang violence, traffic, crowds, smog, or expensive real estate prices, to name a few. The median price of a house in LA, $216,000. In Grand Junction, it's less than half that. This is the one freeway that passes through town. Rush hour? Here it lasts maybe 5 minutes. And cities like Grand Junction are attracting more than just families eager for a better place to live. They're attracting Southern California businesses looking for a better place to operate. For one simple reason.
Bottom line, money.
Like the McGinnises, Burke Wright used to live in the LA area too. He owns Western Filament, a manufacturing firm with 65 employees that had been located in Glendale for nearly 50 years. But 2 years ago, when Burke needed to expand, he ended up moving his entire operation to Grand Junction.
I did the entire project here of 50,000 square feet. for less money than I could have bought the land in L.A.
Burke says he really had no choice but to leave L.A. Like a growing number of businesses in Southern California, he couldn't pay the high wages and taxes and the workers' comp premiums, the 5th highest in the country. In Grand Junction, it's a whole different story.
It's a world of difference. It's night and day.
So it's easy to see why he and so many others are simply giving up on California. In fact, in the past 5 years, 668 manufacturing plants have left the state, taking 92,000 jobs with them. Jack Kaiser of the LA County Economic Development Corporation says California lawmakers aren't doing enough to keep businesses here.
And it's, folks, this is recession. These people are just hanging on by their fingertips, and you just want to, stomp on their fingers and push them off the edge. And I think that's what you run into.
At the same time, cities like Grand Junction are going out of their way to make it easy on LA businesses that want to relocate, offering tax incentives and other breaks that California can't match. For example, Grand Junction gave Burke Wright his land virtually for free. In fact, the people in Grand Junction were so hungry to bring in new businesses that they took up a collection to start an economic development council. Ron Kraft runs it.
They made a concerted effort and developed a plan to diversify the economic base of the valley.
And it's working?
And it's working.
It's not just Burke's business that has moved here from L.A. There's a second company here, too, and the council is hoping for more. For Burke, the move was an easy decision.
They appreciate us here. They want us here.
And Grand Junction is just one of several very popular spots where fed-up Southern Californians are moving. They're moving to places like Bend, Oregon for the wide open spaces, Reno, Nevada, where they don't pay corporate income taxes. Boise, Idaho is a big draw. It has the cleanest air in the country. They're moving to places like Great Falls, Montana, which has nearly the lowest crime rate in the nation. Sioux Falls, South Dakota is pulling them in and putting people to work. The unemployment rate there is only 2.6%. And, of course, people are moving to Grand Junction.
It's the best thing we ever did.
I miss nothing about LA the way it is now, not one thing.
Grand Junction, Colorado. It has clean air, little crime, no crowds. And now it has something else Los Angeles used to have: jobs.
Now, if you feel you got to get out, if you're thinking of moving, make sure you do your homework first. We have some tips from some experts that'll help you make a good decision. Investigate the available jobs and be warned, many salaries in other cities might be much lower than in Los Angeles. If you have kids, check out the schools. You can ask to see test scores. Visit in the winter as well as in the summer. Contact the Chamber of Commerce and you can have them send you information on housing and utility prices. And finally, make sure whatever city you decide to move to welcomes Southern Californians. There's a strong anti-LA bias in many cities. Now, not everyone can move out of Los Angeles, and not everyone wants to. But if the problems of the city are getting you down, well, coming up tomorrow night in part 3 of my special report, we'll give you some ideas on how to cope with city life. We'll also remind you that there is a lot to like about Los Angeles. That's part 3 of my special report, the final segment. Reporting live in Burbank, I'm Tracy Savage. Back to you. Jerry, Tawny?
The Grand Junction Chamber of Commerce just called and wants to know if you're available.
That's right, Tracy.
Absolutely. Well, I tell you, it's a very easy sell. It's a beautiful city, and they work very hard to promote that city, and that's something that the folks here in Los Angeles haven't done much in the past, and they're now finding they're having to do.
Going to have to, yeah. Looking forward to tomorrow's
and
segment.
Schools are outstanding there, are they?
Absolutely. In fact, one of the persons who moved there, a young girl, 10-year-old from Simi Valley, found that she was having a hard time at the schools in Grand Junction. She found that she wasn't quite up to speed with the levels there.
Oh, okay. I see. Very good schools. Jerry, you're asking too many questions.
Do we know
nervous about this.
Do we know the commute time?
The commute time, I don't think there is such a thing in Grand Junction.
Especially in the winter, Jerry. You'd get snowed in too often and leave us alone. Okay.
All right.
Thanks, Tracy.
Okay, thanks, Tracy.
I'm Tracy Savage, live in downtown Los Angeles. Crime, traffic, smog, all reasons why more and more people in this city just gotta get up. But coming up as I conclude my 9 News Extra report, reasons why a lot of people are choosing to stay.
Well, we've been telling you all week that a lot of people are fed up with living in L.A.
But not everyone who wants to leave is getting out. Tonight in our 9 News Extra, we have some tips for people who want to get out of town but can't. Tracy Savage joins us live from downtown Los Angeles with the details on that one. Tracy?
Well, Tawny and Jerry, let me begin by saying there's no question that Los Angeles has a lot of problems that are forcing a lot of residents to move out of the state to seek, I guess you could say, greener pastures. But despite all these problems, Los Angeles can also be a pretty great place to live if you take advantage of what's here. The culture, the entertainment, the sights and sounds can be pretty incredible. It just seems lately, as we've been reporting all week, that a lot of people have gotten caught up in bashing this city.
People can't stop complaining about L.A.
I'm just tired of Los Angeles. I'm just tired of seeing it crumble, as it were.
There's too many people. There's too much traffic. The air is horrible.
Nowadays, if you want to go to the beach, you're going to have to plan a half a day to get there.
It's like everything is just falling apart, in my opinion, in L.A.
People definitely can't stop complaining about L.A. When you are sitting in endless traffic with suffocating smog overhead, you're probably thinking anywhere would be better than this. No doubt wide open spaces sound pretty good. But before you pack up and head off to what you think will be a new paradise, remember, looks can be deceiving.
So don't expect necessarily this golden dream.
Oh, no.
We first introduced you to Scott McGinnis and his family last night. 6 months ago, they sold their house in Simi Valley and moved to Grand Junction, Colorado, looking for a better quality of life. They're definitely happy they left Southern California, but this family is also making big sacrifices to live in Grand Junction.
If you move, you're going to have to realize that you'd be very lucky to make half of what you made. Financially, your check, your salary will be, if you're lucky, half. In my case, it's like 25% of what I used to make.
In Los Angeles, Scott used to work as a mechanical designer for Hughes, sitting behind a computer. To support his family in Grand Junction, Scott took whatever job he could find. He says he now does hard physical labor as a glass glazer for a window company.
Even people with degrees are not finding jobs.
Something else they are giving up by leaving L.A., year-round sunshine.
Oh, I'm sure the first winter will freeze, just because we're not used to the cold.
Californians who've decided they gotta get out also need to consider that wherever they go, wherever they end up, they may not be welcome. There's a definite anti-LA sentiment in many of the popular cities west of the Rockies. If you plan to go to one, better plan to change your license plate in a hurry. They're not welcoming people with open arms.
Right.
Bill Seavey helps people who are fed up with L.A. find greener pastures. He says the people who are most hostile to Californians are, believe it or not, ex-Californians.
The bottom line is that if too many people move to a community, that growth can't be managed. Livability will decline, quality of life will decline.
Many people feel that's exactly what's happened in Los Angeles. Too many people, too many problems. If you can't get out, how do you cope?
This is a very critical time for you to think about.
Dr. Laura Schlesinger is a clinical psychologist who hosts her own radio show. She has counseled so many people who hate L.A. that recently she held a seminar called I Hate L.A.
Pain is extremely motivating.
About 100 people paid $45 each to get help coping with this city. People like Marilyn Arbitman. She is dying to get out, but her husband's job is keeping the family here.
I can't read the paper. I get too depressed reading the paper, listening to the news. It's just another shooting, another gang drive-by.
Dr. Schlesinger's advice to people like Marilyn and to others who think L.A. is the pits is very simple. There are problems everywhere, and you get out of L.A. what you put into it.
And you can be happy with all the crap that's going on in LA by virtue of what you are and what you contribute. It makes the difference.
Basically what Dr. Schlesinger said is really true. You have to look inside yourself. It's very easy to blame LA, but there are a lot of negatives around us here, so you have to be a really strong person to sort of combat it.
There may be negatives around here, but there are positives too. Stop a minute and consider why so many people are choosing to stay. Southern California has a lot to offer.
Under the sun, under the boardwalk, or we'll be having some fun. Yo no sé por qué me has engañado.
So, as we said in the beginning, there is a lot to complain about in Los Angeles, but there's a lot to brag about too.
Now, all week long, we've been telling you how the Golden State is tarnishing, how thousands of people are just getting fed up and moving out, moving to mid-sized cities, cities like Grand Junction. But let me warn you, there is no guarantee that you're going to find happiness elsewhere. And remember, Los Angeles can be a great place to live if you let it. Los Angeles has variety in culture, variety in entertainment, variety in people. The kind of variety you don't find in many small cities. The sights and sounds of Los Angeles can be pretty incredible. Live in downtown Los Angeles, I'm Tracy Savage. Back to you. Jerry, Tawny.
Okay, Tracy. Better stay after all, huh?
Thanks, Tracy.